Real-world assets that have been tokenized with XRP have now made it to $1 billion. It was only a few hundred million, but now it's a billion. What did this happen? In what ways will real-world assets be tokenized in the future on the XRP ledger? What kind of value can we really get, and how will that help people who own XRP? We should jump in and see what's going on to better understand it. I got the whole picture for you. Just to let you know, it looks like the realworldasset.xyz website earlier lied about some facts. There might have been something nearby. Since there isn't $941 million, we aren't quite at $1 billion yet. Please note that this video was taken this morning because we had this information at the time it was shown. I shut down my live stream now, and this was brought up to me, and I wanted to make sure I told you that if I see in this video that we've hit a billion, it was before I knew this. I hope this video is useful for you. It was a lot of work to talk about the good things about tokenization on the XRP platform. There is a lot of really cool stuff here, but please keep in mind that we have not yet reached a billion. I will give you the changes and new information as soon as we have them. It's 190 million. I saw a post by Mr. Kevin Cage that shows $941 million worth of tokenized assets held by Vert Capital. I thought, okay, Vert Capital, tokenization of real-world assets using blockchains like the XRP Ledger and XTC network is rapidly changing traditional finance by turning assets like debt, receivables, and physical goods into digital tokens. This process makes asset types that weren't liquid or easy for most investors to get into easier to trade, understand, and access around the world. Vert Capital is a big financial planning company in Brazil that really shows how this trend works. In 2025, Vert Capital burned 130 million alien tokens in our green business. I think this is kind of like farming. The word is new to me. This project on the XRP ledger showed how tokenization can open up markets that are normally closed to new investors and make credit assets easier to get. People like XRP Ledger for these jobs because it has fast settlement, low fees, strong security, and features that make it easy to create tokens. The XRP Ledger has a built-in decentralized market where investors can trade these asset-backed tokens. This increases liquidity and fractional ownership. Ripple helped come up with ways to give out credit and handle assets, which added to Brazil's financial infrastructure using the blockchain. There's also something going on with XTC. That will stay on the screen for one more second. If you want to read it, you can stop it and look at it. Brazil's role as a hub for tokenization is important for the market as a whole. With big projects on both the XRP Ledger and the XTC network, Brazil is becoming a star in tokenization in Latin America. The XRP record is also being used by other platforms like Mercado Bitcoin to tokenize hundreds of millions of dollars worth of assets. Big names in global finance like Guggenheim and Circle are also joining the ecosystem. Wider use of tokenized real-world assets increases asset liquidity and fractional ownership, improves the transparency and ease of auditing of financial products, streamlines trading, settlement, and management through blockchain rails, lowers counterparty risk, and opens up access for investors from other countries that wasn't possible with older systems. Before, if you lived in another country and wanted to buy something in the United States, you would have to find a dealer and a third party, jump through all these hoops, and pay these extra fees. You can now do all of this yourself with just a click of a button and some cash. So I wanted to get a better sense of it. We'll talk more about this soon. Let me quickly show you this. All of the real-life asset talks we have at Axelor are just about wait. To your point, it's almost like a single setting, right? The sidechain then turns into a place where you can go and make your own things and put them in use, but we don't want to break up users' experiences. To get to your point, we don't want to break up cash, right? So general message passing is the basic building block that lets you talk like you're in a single chain. But now we have another powerful service that you can use and share with developers, right? When they're ready, you can either put things in the EVM smart contract layer or at the consensus layer. Things that are audited and solid should be put in the consensus layer. But because of connectivity, UX and DevX work together without any problems. That's been our goal for you for a few years. And I think it's really important that you guys are doing that because I do think that division is the biggest problem right now for developers and fans all over the space. When we think about RWAs and how to move them to the next step, if we don't offer, people need to feel like they are living in the same place. Yes, I do mean that, and not being torn apart by different links. Isn't it the block that put out a hit piece on the XRP ledger? Anyhow, let's get past this. We're going after that 100 trillion XRP ledger tokenization. The DTCC's core security depository has more than 100 trillion in assets that are being held. Don't forget that they handle anywhere from $2 to $3 quadrillion a year. Then you look at the real-world asset tokenization ecosystem map, which shows Ripple, Medico, and this place where it's under custodians and wallets. Now, when you look at this huge ecosystem of research and deployment, Ripple is at the center of a lot of it. Then it says new article on Ripple homepage looks at benefits, as well as thoughts on CBDCs and the good things that come from tokenizing assets. How then can asset tokenization and CBDCs work together? CBDCs are needed to support the biggest benefits of asset tokenization and the growing number of targeted ways to turn real estate, intellectual property, and other tangible assets into digital tokens that can be kept on blockchain. With tokenization, anyone can see how assets are transferred from the point of view of control. It doesn't matter how efficiently an exchange of assets is settled if the cash part of the deal isn't also efficient and can't be linked into a single atomic update. For example, wholesale CBDCs are made to settle large-scale, high-value security transactions and interbank transfers. They offer operating efficiencies such as faster settlement times and more liquidity when settling other assets like tokenized real estate. Tokenization also makes privacy and flexibility better, and in decentralized networks, assets can move from peer-to-peer without the need for centralized middlemen. More and more, governments are realizing that tokenization can help make traditional ways of owning and investing in assets better. As long as the right rules are in place, tokenization also gives you more choices and flexibility. We can use central banks as an example of how CBDCs can be used. This creates a new balance between the need to share data and the need for privacy, making things clearer. Of course, this can't be done with old tools, right? It's not retail CBDC that they're talking about here. This is wholesale CBDC. Wholesale means from one central bank to another, or from one bank to another central bank. In this case, I think that will come first because central banks always want to speed up their own work before they offer this to people or companies. So if you can get all of these central banks to use the same networks or make those networks work with each other for value, tokenization value, real estate, or anything else, intellectual property can move easily across borders without any problems. And of course, happen right away for little or no cost, but it's still very disorganized, and not everyone has even made the change. For example, in the US, we have stable coin regulation through the Genius Act, but we still don't have crypto regulation. You can see that these are the world's biggest stock markets. We're still having a hard time with this. That's something I think a lot of other countries are also having trouble with, but some like the European Union, the UK, and Japan already have a lot of this worked out. We should be able to learn from them and get to the same place as everyone else. You can also use Ripple to buy real estate. The agreement between Ripple and Control Alt is a big deal for real estate, and the tokenization of assets, especially real estate. The XRP ledger's size, importance, and expected money flow are broken down below. How big and important the partnership is as a first-of-its-kind government project. This is being done with the help of Ripple and the government of Dubai. This is really cool. The Dubai Land Department in the Middle East is the first government agency to tokenize property titles on a public blockchain. They chose the XRP ledger as their preferred ledger. Listen up now. Why did they pick the XRP ledger when they could have picked any other technology? And people trust Ripple because they've worked in the Middle East for a while, right? You can count on them. They know how the tech works and understand it. That's why they picked Ripple. Regulatory support and control. Alt Ripple Partner was the first platform in Dubai to get a license to handle a lot of virtual assets. This was approved by the Virtual Assets Regulatory Body, and it made sure that assets were kept safely throughout their entire life cycles. As the backbone of custody, Ripple's technology takes care of all tokenized property titles. This makes sure that they are stored safely and allow S for partial ownership, which makes the Dubai market open to people all over the world. And you should know that Ripple is showing you that they can do this with the help of government.